the Medrash is the story of Yosef. And the Medrash says an amazing thing, that the sin, interestingly, that triggers the entire parsha is not the sin of selling Yosef. It's a sin which comes way before that, which is the sin of Yaakov showing favoritism to one of his children. And the Talmud says this, you have to be very careful. When you have a big family, you can't show favoritism to one child over another. Because Yaakov showed favoritism to Yosef, and what happened? Everything snowballed, and from this the Egyptian enslavement emerged. So it says in the Medrash that really, why did it happen? It was a consequence of a sin. What sin? The sin of showing favoritism to a child. That's what the Medrash says. But it was an excuse. Because really it would have had to happen anyway, because it was already foretold to Avraham Avinu. So God was looking for an excuse to blame it on us. That's what the Medrash says. Now this is a Medrash which is very, very hard to understand. Yes?
But isn't it true that it could have been another exile in another place? I mean, Hashem just said your children will be in exile. It didn't say.
That's true. That's true.
Where.
But it happened to be this place. Why this place? No, there could be reasons for that. But I don't think this Medrash explains that either. Right? So this is a hard Medrash to understand. It's like there are things that have to happen anyway. They're part of the divine plan, and God is looking for excuses. And what does that mean? So let me mention that the Ramchal, or Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, in the Sefer Das Tgunas, discusses this concept. He doesn't bring the Medrash, but he is certainly referring to the Medrash. In other words, it's one of these things that you just know, but undoubtedly this is what he's referring to. He just says it as a matter of fact, but this undoubtedly was his source. It says the following. God runs the world in two different ways. One of them he calls the Hanhagas HaMishpat, the conduct of justice. In this mode, God is reacting and responding to that which we do. When we do a mitzvah, God rewards us. We do an aveira, God punishes us. Now, if this is the only way in which God would run the world, then you could not say in any real sense there was a plan. There's a plan, there's an objective, there's an end point, because the future would be indeterminate. It really would depend on what people do. People make good choices, there'll be good consequences. If you make bad choices, there'll be bad consequences. So, Hanhagas HaMishpat, the conduct of justice, does not allow for any purpose, any objective, any goal, any telos, to use a great Greek word, which means any ultimate purpose, because it's only God reacting and responding. Let's say, for example, just to give a mashal, let's say instead of giving a prepared class, I would just come in and say, okay, no class tonight, we're just going to have questions and answers. Ask whatever you want, and we'll just take it from there. So, could it be said that there was a plan to the class, a purpose, an objective, a goal, something that was meant to be accomplished? It all depends. Depends what you ask, depends whether I can answer. And it might be fun to do it. So, once in a while, if you really don't particularly care to get to a particular place, you just go and you see what happens. Try it out. Yeah.
But two things as an exception to that. First, you could have a plant who will ask questions that you wanted them to ask, and God could create people that will...
Let me get to that. A good point. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Okay. But that's one possibility, and that's one way in which God runs the world. There's another way that God runs the world, which the Ramchal calls Hanhagas HaMazal. This is the conduct based on Mazal. Now, Mazal is one of these things, one of these words, which is misunderstood. We wish Mazel Tov. So Mazel Tov, what does Mazel Tov mean? It means good luck. Good luck. Mazel doesn't mean luck. Luck implies a certain randomness, a certain... Mazel means something else. The word Mazel comes from the Hebrew word nozel. Nozel means something which flows. When you pour out of a bottle into a cup, it flows downward. That's nozel. Nozlim are liquids. They flow. As when God, in a sense, controls from above that which transpires below, that is mazel. There's a flow. God is pouring, so to speak, His bounty from above, and that impacts the world down here. Mazel tov means that God should decree good things upon you. That the aspects of your life which are decreed by God should be positive. Positive decrees, prosperity and success, etc. That's the idea of mazel, mazel tov. Hanhagas HaMazel means God has a plan. God has a purpose. There's an objective. There's a goal for the course of history. And certain things have to happen. And God pulls the strings to make sure they happen. Now, that's also a very nice way to run the world. But when you run the world with mazel, it doesn't necessarily mean, or it doesn't necessarily work out, that people are going to get what they deserve. Let's say the divine plan is that Jews should come back to Eretz Yisrael and enjoy Mashiach and so on and so forth. But there may be some people that are wicked there that don't deserve that bliss. So how are they going to get their just desserts? Well, the answer for that is very simple. The answer for that is, that's what we have Olam Haba for. That's what we have the world to come. The world to come, the accounts will be settled. But in this world, in the area will be that certain things happen not because people deserve them to happen, but because the divine plan requires that they happen. The Ramchal brings a Zohar. But the Zohar says like this. The Zohar says, it's hard to understand, there is a time, the Zohar says, that God will rise from the throne of justice and the throne of mercy, at which time there will be no reward and no punishment. The Zohar says there will be a time will come, that God will rise from the throne of justice and the throne of mercy, and there will be no reward and no punishment. Now what does this mean? So the Ramchal says this means the period before Mashiach comes. In other words, in the period before Mashiach's arrival, history is coming to its conclusion. So here, God has to really pull the strings and manipulate events to bring about the fulfillment of the plan. And therefore, at this time, many things will happen that do not fit with the considerations of justice. Because it's necessary to bring the fulfillment of the divine plan. And that's to be expected. Because you can't reconcile the two. There's no way that God can run the world to bring about its ultimate objective, and yet every person will get exactly what he deserves. I mean, what if people just don't cooperate with the divine plan? Correct? So something has to give way. So either God will run the world on the basis of justice, meaning he'll respond to that which we do, but if we don't cooperate, we'll just drag the world farther and farther and farther away from the ultimate objective. Or God can run the world toward its ultimate objective, but then things are going to happen that aren't consistent with the considerations of justice. And that's what the Zohar says, that there will be such a time. There'll be a time where God will rise from the throne of justice and the throne of mercy, meaning that he's not going to run the world with considerations of justice, which means either from the throne of din or the throne of mercy, but rather he will rise from those thrones and he'll run the world based on what needs to happen in order for the world to achieve its ultimate objective. And these will be very difficult times, because people will their mouths will drop open with wonder. Why are these things happening? Why are the innocent suffering? Why are the wicked prospering? And the answer, or at least one answer to that question is that we've reached a stage of historical development where we're approaching the end of days, and things have to happen because they have to happen. Yes?
Where does, free will come in to these two?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You see, free will, obviously generally you have free will to do what you want to do. But you're 100% right. Sometimes God may have to interfere with free will in order to bring about the objective. Okay? So again, within the trivial areas of life, right? For example, if you're debating what to have for dinner tonight, right? Should you have the beef or should you have the chicken? Well, in all likelihood, that's not going to affect the course of history one way or the other. So God says, we'll leave that up to you, right? But if you're dealing with a decision which really may very well affect the course of history, you're right. When we reach that stage of development where God has to run the world to make sure history comes to its objective, it may be that God will intervene and even tap into your brain and guide you. Of course, in that instance, you won't be held responsible because you didn't choose freely. Or that would be unjust for God to manipulate your thinking and hold you responsible. That can't be. So there could be. But, it isn't necessary to do that often because, again, most of the choices we make over the course of a lifetime probably don't make those great differences. But in the rare situations that they do, it could be that, when we reach the end of days or approaching the end of days, God will have to intervene. So therefore, I think that the Holocaust may be an example of this. Because we do know that the Holocaust had historical consequences that directed the future course of Jewish history, especially the establishment of the State of Israel, for example. And, we do believe we are approaching the end of days. And the establishment of the state may be the laying of the groundwork for the ultimate Messianic age. And therefore, when the end of days comes and what has to happen, so God says, okay, now I'm going to run the world based on the considerations of Mazel, meaning the divine decree for history, and considerations of justice have to be put in the back burner. Now, on the other hand, sometimes it's another way. Sometimes the Baruch says, listen, I'm only going to respond and react. I will not play an active role. I'll be, in a sense, passive. I will relate to you as you relate to me. And in that instance, people's actions don't bring history closer to its fulfillment. So this is really a very, very wonderful thing. A wondrous thing, I should say. Because how God runs the world in different ways, sometimes merely responding or reacting to people's deeds, and sometimes actually guiding the course of history to bring about the desired end. Says the Ramchal that God, however, even when He guides the course of history, even when He's pulling the strings from above, wants to make it look as if history unfolds as a consequence of choices that people make. In other words, God does not want to make it apparent that He is manipulating history, and therefore He brings about situations where it seems, might not really be that way, but it seems that what happens is a consequence of the choices that people have made. And he says, and in these circumstances, says Ramchal, a very, very small thing can have tremendous consequences. Consequences that really it should not have. Really small things would not have such great consequences. But here, a small thing can have a consequence because it's not really the small thing which causes the event. It's really only to create the illusion. So generally, if God would be running the world with Anhagas HaMishpat, then only big things would have big consequences. Little things would have little consequences. But since it's only to mask, to conceal God's running of the world, so therefore, even small things can have tremendously large consequences. And everyone says, not God pulling the strings. It's simply that sometimes it happens that little things have big consequences. But really it shouldn't be that way. The little things should not have big consequences. Because if God is running the world based on considerations of justice, there should be proportionality. Only big things have big consequences. Little things only have little consequences. But here it's only an illusion. And therefore, those of us who have the insight to see through the illusion understand, now this can't be. This is too trivial a thing, right, to have caused such a snowball effect. It must be this is really God running the world. But he's concealing himself for the sake of the people that wish to err, that they should have an excuse in saying, no, it's really only the small thing that had the big consequences. Now, Ramchal doesn't bring the Medrash, but he certainly intended the Medrash. Now, let's go back to the story of the man with the divorce. Right? This is a plan. It's already long arranged. He had the get written. He's come home. He's intending on giving the get. But he doesn't want to make it look like this is a decision he's made unilaterally. In other words, he wants to make it look like she's at fault. So give me a cup of coffee. And he takes the cup of coffee. It's lukewarm. Right, here's your get. Get out of here. I don't want to see you. That's my life. I mean, obviously, that is not grounds for a divorce. Right? That doesn't make any sense. No one divorces his wife because the coffee is cold. But the point is that if you are just trying to make it look like an excuse, then okay, so this is the excuse. And everyone wonders, does that make any sense? I mean, some people will say, yeah, I'm a person like that. There are some Mishugoyim in the world, there are great people in the world. The coffee is cold, and, that's it. I remember, I once saw a cartoon. Remember the Far Side cartoons? So they had a cartoon, many of his cartoons took place in Gehenna, in hell itself, and, the devil was standing with a pitchfork and everything. And they're standing in line, and they're giving out coffee. Right, the coffee break in Gehenna. And the guy takes a sip of coffee, and he says, they thought of everything. He says, even the coffee is cold. Everything else is hot, but the coffee is cold. But no one would divorce his wife for that. But people say, yes, there are some crazy people that would do that. Right? So those people don't see it as something which is already planned and already prearranged. But the reality is that people that are more insightful know that, and the woman herself knew that. She says, this can't be. You're not divorcing me because the coffee is cold. It must be. You have some other reason. You found someone prettier, someone younger, someone richer. And this is just an excuse. So it's the same thing. As God wants to conceal the fact that at points in time, he is running the world not on considerations of reward and punishment. That it's not that our choices have real consequences, but rather he's running the world to advance the plan for history. So he wants to conceal that. So what does he do? So he brings about situations where the little things happen, and it can be understood that the big consequences follow from the little things. So you have Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu shows favoritism to his son, and it snowballs, and all of a sudden the Jews are enslaved in Egypt, before you know it. And that's the kind of thing that shouldn't happen. But it allows a person, sometimes it happens. You have a chain of coincidences, and it happens, and happens, and happens, and happens, and happens. And yet small things have big consequences. But the truth is, small things shouldn't have big consequences, because if you look at the story very carefully, there are a dozen junctures where the story should not unfold the way it does. I'll just give you one very, very simple one. It says that Yosef is looking for his brothers. Yaakov Avinu sent him to Shechem. Says, well, your brothers are grazing in Shechem. He goes to Shechem, no brothers. Nobody's there. So he's looking around, he's wandering around, can't find his brothers. So he encounters a man. And Yosef asks him, have you seen my brothers? So the man says, oh yeah, I heard that your brothers are grazing in Dothan, another place. Go there, you'll find them there. Who is this man? Who is this man? Chazal say this man was an angel. It was the Malach, the angel Gabriel. That means that really what should have happened, if things followed their natural course,
Come home.
you guys would have come home. I looked, didn't find them. I came home. That would have been the end of that. End of the story. Right? So there's this man there, right? This man in the middle of nowhere, right? Who isn't even a man, is really an angel. And he directs him to the right place. And you go through the story, you see so many improbable things happen. You know, so yeah, after the fact, everyone looks at the story and say, of course this is what happened. You know, this happened, this led to this, this led to this, this led to this, this led to this. And as a result, there was an enslavement, and the rest is history. But really, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's only to give the skeptics the ability to deny God's providence. But in reality, God is pulling the strings. And that's how he does it. And that's the idea, that even when God is carrying out his plan for history, whether it's that the Jews should be enslaved, or that Moshe should not bring the Jews into Eretz Yisrael, or that death should be introduced into the world, right? God brings about situations where it can be understood that a very small thing had dramatic consequences. That's really only in order that people should think that the Anhagas HaMishpat is taking place, and they should have the opportunity to deny the idea that God really is running the course of history. That's the fantastic idea of this medrash. So getting back to the original point we made, the truth is that it's true. In other words, both are true. It's true what the medrash says, that it was long decreed that the Jews go down to Egypt, and this whole story is only God's way of bringing it about. But it's also true that the Jews went to Egypt because of the story. Meaning, this is how God set it up. God set it up that it should appear as if the Egyptian enslavement is the consequence of this story, but in reality it's the exact opposite. But the appearance that it should be that the story is the cause and the enslavement is the effect is not an illusion. Or actually, it is an illusion, but it's an intended illusion. It's really what God had in mind all along.